come on in and have a seat. This is going to be kind of a personal talk because Margaret and I worked hard with Orlo Stitt and Keaton Smith to put this project together. So here in Northwest Arkansas, SWEPCO is one of the main utility providers. SWEPCO and the Ozarks. Help me out, Orlo. Thank you. So, but SWEPCO's balance at the present is almost 90% fossil fuel. So, what do you do as an individual?
There's Arcadia where you can get...
Good point, yes. So anywhere in Arkansas and anywhere in the country, you can sign up for Arcadia Power. ArcadiaPower.com, and you get 50% renewable energy for the same price you're already paying. Identical price, no more money. And then for a few shekels more per month, you can get 100% renewable energy. They what they do is they buy renewable energy credits. So yes, good point. This is the future, 2034 plans that SWEPCO currently has in the Arkansas. Is that too small? Okay. Well, it's 29% solar and wind, whereas right now we're at 8% wind and 3% energy efficiency. So 11% wind or energy efficiency now. In their plan, they're going to 29% solar and wind and 4% energy efficiency, but it'll still be 67% coal and natural gas. So one thing we can do as individuals is buy solar panels, either on a loan. Often the payments are less than your current utility bill, but you have to have decent credit is the one problem. So that's where Arcadia Power comes in for students and renters. That's an easy solution to get off coal and natural gas. So this is a home here in Fayetteville, and has 99 solar panels on it, and it has for about 12 years, but they still have a huge energy bill because it's a huge house and they just leave everything on all the time. They're not, they bought the solar panels as, they were preppers basically. And they have a battery backup system that'll last a couple hours in an emergency. All right, so our solution, and I'm not saying it's the only solution, obviously, we've already talked about Arcadia Power. Our goal was to have a net zero plus home. Now what's a net zero home?
It doesn't put off carbon?
Yeah. In its own operation, right? But earlier I showed a graph saying in the US, on balance, we're at 29% of our carbon footprint is from transportation now. It's bigger than our home use. So net zero plus covers the vehicles too. So at the time we started this project with Orlo, with Stitt Group, we had 2 volts because here in Arkansas, there's especially northwest Arkansas, there really isn't any public place to charge. So it's home, and when we drive to Little Rock, you have the generator, the gas generator as a backup. Since we've been fortunate enough to get a Tesla Model 3, and that doesn't have a gas backup. Supposedly in Russellville, well, in Clarksville, there's going to be a supercharger sometime soon, is what the Tesla map has been saying, the supercharger map has been saying for quite a while. Now, the first thing you do when you're going to do a net zero home is you make it tight and you make it insulated. And this is a picture of the insulated concrete forms so that the outside is foam and tight and insulated, and the inside is concrete to give it structure. Then you have to have rebar too, because concrete is good in compression, but not in tension. And that means that if you didn't have the rebar, the wall could fall over easily. And here's another view. And we protected the tree, and there's another elm tree in the front yard that got a little bit of protection as well because they were in the construction zone. This shows the blown concrete, or the blown foam insulation, and it seals very well. So it offers insulation and sealing. Now there's three things you need to be concerned about in trying to reduce your energy consumption. One is convection, and then conduction, and radiation. And this picture shows all three because the windows are high efficiency windows. That's where you lose your radiation losses. And the convection means like air loss. So if you're sealed tight, then you don't have air loss. And the conduction is the insulation properties. And I'll show you another slide in a moment. This is a zip bar product, and it's becoming more and more common to prevent thermal bridging. And if you have an infrared thermal camera and you point it at a typical wall, you'll be able to see the studs in the wall. But with this product, you won't see the studs because it prevents the thermal bridging. It offers the qualities of a plastic wrap plus insulation.
Can you say what thermal bridging is?
That's the conduction, like when you have a wood stud, there's a tendency, and the difference of temperature from inside to outside, either it's hot outside and cool inside, or it's chilly, it's cold outside and it's hot or you want to stay warm inside. So the thermal bridging is that the studs are solid and they'll conduct energy from the inside to the outside or from the outside to the inside. And that's what the infrared cameras tell you. So in order to prevent that, you need some insulation to cut the thermal communication with the outside world, essentially. Also, now Michelle talked about heat pumps. Heat pumps are great. This particular heat pump is rated a 19 to 20 in cooling and 8.5 to 10 in the heating cycle. There's no gas line to the house, so it's an all electric home. So that was one thing that Michelle was just talking about. Another thing is heating water, and so these are flash water heaters, electric water heaters, and they work great. And they're small. It's just a box about this big, about this thin, maybe 4 inches thick. And it heats all the water in the home. We have two of them, one for the lower 2 floors and one for the upper floor. We haven't had any trouble with them at all. Now, you do need to treat them for Lyme every once in a while, you know, get the scale off the pipes on the inside, but yeah, we haven't had any trouble yet. In 2 years, yeah. This shows a couple of things. This shows both the employment possibilities of solar and, you know, our view, which is why we chose the site, and the solar panels. We have 52 solar panels at home, and they're the smaller size ones. The ones on the roof here are slightly bigger. They're 72 cell units, so they're 2 meters by 1 meter up here. They're 1.8 meters by 1 in the ones we have at home. And those are 285 watts, and these are 320 watt units. So I could easily bore you with lots of details, but I'll go on. Here we have another aspect of the home, and this is something Orlo has fought for his whole life since he started his company in '78. These are passive solar, part of a passive solar design. Those little visors over the south-facing windows are about 2 feet, which allows heat in, you know, sun in the winter, and keeps the windows shaded in the summer. So. And this is something else that Orlo told us about, was these diamond-shaped blinds. So that these are good insulating blinds, and they provide like an air barrier between the room and the outside. So. And you have them at your offices.
Yes, and at our home too.
Yeah. So here's a drone shot of the house. We've got 8 spots for 18 more solar panels on the garage, and there's 42 on the house. And the house, Orlo has a longtime architect that he's worked with, Suzanne Lance, and when I asked her about, well, you know, what do you call those things, clear stories or something? And yeah, are they clerestories or clear stories? And she said, well, we just call them clear stories. So we intentionally designed them so that we could put more solar on the house and then on the garage.
Wait, so clear stories are what?
Well, okay, there's north-facing windows. Yeah, this isn't going to work on there. But in the shade, there's vertical windows, and that's way up in the bathroom, so like 15 feet up. But it allows the roof line to continue on up. You're still not, okay. Maybe I can do it with this.
It's an extension of the roof like this. It's like a fake roof. Just
Here.
solar panels on it.
Okay, see the cursor? So that's called a clear story, or
People do it for style, but he did it for solar.
right. I wanted the extra room just in case. So oops, oh no, I messed it up. Okay, good. And this is something that Michelle was talking about earlier as well. This is a rating, and it's oh, I didn't mention something. This is a blower door test that's part of the construction process with the stick group. This is one that they own, and then the raters come in later on with their own official rating. But in the stick group, or Mac, the construction manager, used this to track down leaky, any leaks that he found, he was able to fill right away before the drywall was hung up.
But you can get that on any house.
Yeah, right, yes. Do the blower torque, yeah. We did that in our Van Buren house that we retrofit considerably, and it had the same number of panels, a little bit less power, but it was not able to, it wasn't able to be a net zero home, although it was, the solar was nice, and it was, we had lots of extra features there. We insulated as much as we could, but you just can't do a retrofit as tight as you can do a build from this, an intentional build. Okay. So this is the result of using the blower door, this is one of the results of using the blower door test. So what it says is existing homes, average existing home rates 130 on this scale. Average new home would rate 100. This rate's negative 27. Now the zero would be a net zero home without the transportation factor, without plugging in electric vehicles. So the negative 27, we spent the extra money to get that to that point in order to account for the cars. That's one way to think of it. And the electric vehicles are much less, they cost much less to operate than a gas vehicle. They cost about 1/3 or 1/4 to operate. And when you have the solar panels, it's even less. Because, fueling a vehicle is much more expensive than fueling even your home. And here's some proof. This is our energy bill. So zero energy used for over a year. So just the connect charge, just the customer charge, $876 a month. And here, that's an old photo. But this shows part of the feedback that I get every day, or anytime I feel like it, from an app on my phone to check on the solar system. And here's more recent data. So you can see 41.5 megawatt hours, and a megawatt hour is a lot of energy. Megawatt hour is worth, retail it's worth about $100 or $110. So you multiply that times the 41.5 megawatt hours, and that's in 2 years what we've generated. I guess, okay. And this is another output from it's called Solar Edge. And they have optimizers. Here we have, what's it called? They're microinverters. Enphase brand microinverters on the 252 panels. So that means that there's a single inverter behind each solar panel on the church here. Whereas here, there's an optimizer with each solar panel. This isn't oriented right. This would be the garage roof, over there. But diagrammatically, it's easier to do it this way, side by side. And so you can see some panels produce more than others. These are in the shade because the elm tree shades them in the morning. And these are in the shade in the evening because the oak tree shades them in the evening. But for the most part, they're all very productive. And you can check each individual panel's production daily or moment by moment if you care. We're actually up to about 1,600 equivalent trees planted in their rating system. So they, 1,600 trees equivalent in terms of the carbon dioxide absorption. And this shows Old Main in the back, the car in the front, and we have 6 places to charge, to plug in the cars. Because someday we think our friends are going to want to plug in when they come visit. And this is a Chevy Volts output, and it shows, okay, this particular car at the time this was taken had I think 100,000 miles on it. I think it was Margaret's first Volt that we got in 2011, 160 miles per gallon equivalent, or that's not quite right. 160 miles per gallon of gasoline is what that means. So they're not counting the electricity. But over a lifetime of use, that's much better than a Prius. Anyway. Now, something else that we worked on before was this array at a church in Fort Smith, Grace Community United Methodist Church, and it's got 39 panels on this side and 39 panels on that side, so 16.8 kilowatts, whereas this system here with 252 panels, okay, so that's 78 panels, and that was a long time ago, so the panels were less capable than the current ones. So these panels are 252, whereas that's 78. The 252 are 80.64 kilowatts. So it's a much bigger system, but it's also, each individual panel is much more efficient than the old ones. And this was taken early on. It's actually up to 100, well over 100 the last time I took it, which was 3 or 4 years ago. So 100 megawatt hours since the system was turned on. And that's a fairly, that's a modest sized system. And here's the Omni Center, which is here in town. When they were putting on the solar panels, we had, volunteer labor doing it, including, well, I don't know, Melissa Terry is here today. Her husband is Flint Richter, and two other fellows. Flint was, leading the group, and the other two were helping him out. And of course, whenever you have something like this in town, you have a party, right? At the same time, here in Fayetteville. So we had, Orlo was there, he gave a speech. I just said a couple of words, I think, and sat down. And then we had singers and guys working, and after, some guys helping out on the ground, picking up panels and pushing them up the ladder so the guys up on the roof could grab them. And, it's kind of like a barn raising. And here's the plans for this church. I showed that earlier. And this is a reminder that $1.36 a watt, which is utility kind of pricing. Utilities pay that much money, or up until recently. It's going closer and closer to $1 a watt, but a typical home installation is probably $3 or $4 a watt often. So we got an exceptional deal, and Shine did a good job, and they're very organized and gave us a really low estimate. And followed through, did the work. So that's here. I showed that earlier. Okay, now this is about the batteries and the battery pricing and how quickly it's gone down, and it's gone down since. So it's gone down by 76% since 2010. Well, from 2010 to 2016. In the 2 years since, it's gone down even further. So battery prices are lower than anyone could have imagined. And for a Model 3, like what I was able to get, Elon is saying that the replacement costs for the whole, well, first he expects the batteries to last 300 to 400,000 or 300 to 500,000 miles of driving, and then cost about $4,000 to replace, which is, you know, it's extremely cheap relative to gasoline or diesel or anything, any other way of transportation mobility. I put this in here to explain, often in my class I show drag races between Tesla Model S performance vehicles and the fastest Lamborghini in the world. And for the first quarter mile, the Tesla's faster. So they're fast. You know, they're not the old golf cart kind of technology. These are designed vehicles, and they're neck-snappingly fast. Now, I put this in here to show the towing ability, because diesel trains are they're not diesel engines coupled to the wheels, to the drive wheels. It's traction drive. They're electric motors. They're diesel electric trains. So they have a diesel generator that adds energy to a battery, and then the battery powers a motor, an electric motor, and the electric motors are what drives the wheels. So yeah, diesel electric, and they've been this way since the 50s because it's just more efficient. You know. And here's an example of a LEED certified building, the University of Arkansas Engineering Research Center, just south of town. And they got LEED points for being able to have, come on, there we go, for being able to have a place to plug in your electric vehicle. So they got the LEED points and I got the electricity. So. Pica Solar was a company that was set up there. I'm still part of it, and this is kind of part of what we did. We enhanced solar cells, and we've got a proprietary manufacturing process to improve cell efficiency. But we need some funding in order to get to the manufacturing level. We've got a tiny an office level prototype, but we're trying to get a production level prototype going. And this is my favorite bumper sticker. And I've named both of our solar systems on our homes, Homeland Security, because that's what I think it is. You know, it's the way we don't need to buy gas. It's the way we stop poisoning ourselves. And it's I don't know, I just like that concept. And what if it's a hoax and we just make the world a better place? I mean, really. What if climate change is just silly and we just make the world cleaner? So, yeah, I don't want, all right. I've already shown those. Now we could show some videos, or we could just do some Q&A. We don't have a whole lot of time left. Well, yeah, we do. We've got like 20 minutes. So which would you rather do?
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
So what's the square footage of this church, or what?
Oh, gee, I don't know what the church's square footage is. This was the first sanctuary right here. I think, I don't think this wall was here. I think it pushed back to some stone walls, and there's a window on the other side. But, so this used to be the sanctuary here. They added the kitchen after, and then they added the offices and the other sanctuary, and eventually the last thing that was added was the Alton Center. But I don't know the square footage.
So you had the solar panels for about a year, is that right?
About, yeah, 10 and a half, 11 months.
And so does that mean what percentage of your energy use for the church?
I'm going to show another, okay, we're going to do another case study for the church. This one was for the home. I did one earlier, and we're going to do one at 4:30 also after the last session. But it meets, well, it's here. We've gotten about $8,000 in value out of the solar system, approximately, in 10 and a half months.
Just the picture of, was that you holding up that solar thing?
No. That was Hafiz.
What is that thing that they're holding up?
It's a solar cell. So the solar, okay, a typical panel, a home-sized panel has 60 of those cells, and a commercial one like on the roof here has 72. So it's 2 more rows of 6 on the ones that are on the roof here. Let's see here. Yeah, so that's a solar cell is 6 inches by 6 inches, 6-inch square.
I like this very wall.
Yeah. And so 60 of those go into a typical solar panel at home, that you would put on your home. And 72 are in the ones on the roof here.
Is there a storage? I mean, can you store the solar power?
No, well, okay, if you had a battery, yes, but right now there's no time of use billing, so there's really no incentive for people around here to use batteries. But someday, if there were time of use billing, and in places where there is, people use it. Like in Texas, okay. In Texas, there's Texas Utilities, TXU is their stock ticker. Texas Utilities offers a price from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. of zero cost electricity. So if you had an electric vehicle, it makes a whole lot of sense to plug in at night, because that's when they'd rather have their generators running than turn them off. It costs more for them to curtail their power than it does not to bill you. Yeah, I mean, the billing cost is so low that it just doesn't make any sense. Yes. So I'm sorry.
So we're gonna need to be replacing our roof in the
Uh-huh.
next couple of years. Do you know anything about the Tesla solar roof tiles?
Okay, they claim to be less than a roof plus the panels, but I don't know. I'm suspicious, and they are less efficient than a dedicated panel, but they do work, so I don't know. I haven't really looked into it a whole lot. And they're not really producing much yet, or many examples and studies and so on. Peter, you had a question.
I was just going to comment on the battery question. You're mentioning that at like a residential scale or commercial scale, batteries don't make sense because we don't have time of use billing. But at the utility scale, the utilities are paying and have to buy power in the summertime when power is expensive out of the open market. So utility scale batteries are becoming a reality. In fact, we've got a project going in right here in Fayetteville.
Yeah, good. Tell about that a little bit.
Well, I don't.
Okay. You'll have an opportunity later when you're talking.
We'll talk about it here in about 20 minutes.
Good, good.
I was ready to
So, yeah, the city of Fayetteville has got an agreement with Ozarks Electric and, well, the electric, the Arkansas Cooperative
Arkansas
Corporation or whatever?
and today's Power Inc.
Right, right. So a subsidiary. So the agreement makes sense to all three. The retail utility that would sell you energy, the city, which is the customer, and the installer. And it made sense to all three of them. Any other questions?
Yeah, you said how much coal was used for SWEPCO. Did you say how much was used for Ozark?
I don't know the answer to that, but I assume, the electrons travel on the same lines, so because they're in this vicinity, I assume it's pretty close.
Okay.
We've done the analysis for City of Fayetteville government operations. Currently, our blend of electricity we get from the two utility companies, about 16% of that currently is what we would consider clean.
Right, so 16 versus 11, which is what SWEPCO's claiming, 11% renewable and efficiency related.
But that includes water power.
Water? Oh, you mean hydro? Yeah, like Beaver Dam, right. Yep. So, any more questions, or should I show a video? Yes.
So if you have a negative impact with the batteries,
Right.
do you get credit for that as a utility, or how does that work?
No, because billing is an issue. I mean, see, to them, billing's a big cost. So, they pay somebody to drive around and collect the data. They've automated that. They don't actually have to look at a meter anymore, but as they're driving by, they have to pay somebody to drive a route to pick up the data using a Bluetooth device that connects to the meter that they own on your house and that you're paying for, of course. So, no, the transaction, I mean, their attitude in this community has been that the transaction cost is too high to charge time of use billing. But the way it works in Texas Utilities or in the Dallas area is, I think they offer like 16 or 17 cents during the daytime and 0 from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Because it just doesn't pay them. It just doesn't. I tried to explain it earlier about, turning their machines off and then restarting them at 6 a.m. costs more than it would to just keep them running.
Right, but like if your solar's contributing, can it go back to the grid?
Yes. Yeah, we have a net metering law in Arkansas, yeah. So net metering means that anything we generate more than what we're using at that moment goes to the grid, and we get credit for it, and we get paid retail now. The new agreement that's going to come into effect will be a little less advantageous, but it'll still make sense.
Will that new one then affect you, or are you on your own?
No, we're grandfathered for 20 years.
And when is the new one coming into effect?
Orlo might be able to speak to that. I think the current agreement is through the end of the year.
They have renegotiated into 2023, I believe, in the document today.
Oh, wow. So you'll still get paid retail rates.
My son David and I went down to the meetings and wrote off the Public Service Commission, and there was all kinds of talk about retail, wholesale, that they're getting a bad deal, and the customers getting such a good deal, but I think what they're really concerned about is the cost of building new power plants.
Yeah.
The other thing they're concerned about is going out of business because everybody's buying solar. And that would be a nice thing for, at least for them to be threatened.
Yeah. Well, even if there were, I think they need to hear the truth. Any other questions about? Yes?
I thought when Good Shepherd was getting solar panels that it was said that the utility companies don't pay for extra energy that goes to the grid.
No, they do. Yeah, they do. They always did, and that was why we wanted to hurry, because we didn't know that they were going to dawdle for a year and keep the laws the same as it is.
We thought it was going to end and only.
Yeah, we thought the chair of the committee of the Public Utility Commission was saying that it could happen anytime, that there was no guarantee, or, that he was being urgent about it. But see, he couldn't get a consensus. He couldn't get a unanimous vote.
So there's been a lot of talk in places like Nevada and Arizona, even here in Arkansas, that they're going to change the contracts and everything, but there's a huge momentum environmentally and unfortunately, I guess there's a Arkansas Based Energy Association which carries the part of the finance. The major lobby for environmental impact. The utilities are also being threatened by what Terry showed at the Great Slide about what's happening with batteries. There's a municipality outside of Denver, where the Denver airport is, basically running their own microgrid, and they can charge their batteries and discharge them, keep the time of day usage. Terry didn't tell you it's zero in Texas from all that long, but it might be from 4:44 in the afternoon until 7:50.
You charge a higher rate. Yeah, they charge a very high rate,
$1.40 per kilowatt hour,
perhaps.
because they don't want to build the car.
So, yeah. Unfortunately, this computer isn't tied into our Wi-Fi system, so I can't play. But if I were to play the Years of Living Dangerously clip, it would show the connection between wars and climate change because of, well, in Syria, there was a drought that was the most severe drought for a millennium, and it's almost certainly connected with climate change in some way, or it's exacerbated by climate change. So it would show you the urgency of families who are refugees from Syria. And the other one, the one in Yemen, the war there is also connected to climate change because people in Yemen, wells that have been used for 1,000 years are drying up. And there's conflict over what's going on. And then the out of Africa, that 2-minute one is another that talks about the pressures on people in sub-Saharan Africa and how they need to flee their homes just to survive, basically. Sure.
I heard Governor Brown speak, and this was a year or two ago, and he was saying, and this was really for the refugee, whether it's political or whether it's humanitarian or even religious, all the refugees coming up from Middle and Central America. Mm-hmm. And he said that the biggest challenge in the future as it relates to climate change and as it relates to food and water are refugees.
Yep.
That refugees will take over the upper society if they don't have enough food or shelter or so forth. They will vote for anybody, and even the whole concept of the democracy that we enjoy
Yeah.
will be challenged because people are hungry and people are homeless.
Yeah, when,
How much of the population lives off the coastline? That's
Yeah.
really lethal.
yes. Now, when we were in Nicaragua in 85 to 87, I went there, my job was to design irrigation systems, and they depend on a bimodal distribution of rain, basically. So that you have a lot of rain in the winter, and then you have a dry period, and then in the fall you have another rainy period. And their crop rotations depend on that, and it's being disrupted right now. My training, I got a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD in ag engineering and in hydrology and contaminant modeling. And one word or one phrase I'd like you to take with you. It's non-stationarity of the data set. And what that means is that it's changing over time. The way hydrologists work in order to put up dams and defensive structures is a 100-year record is considered the gold standard, and anything longer than a 30-year record of stable record is considered good for designing. It's not stable anymore. It's changing. There's an abrupt change that happened starting in the 90s and in the 2000s, so that drought is coming in the drought-prone areas and more rains are coming in the wet areas. So non-stationarity of your rainfall record is a big problem for hydrologists, for engineers, to protect us from the problems, either both drought and flooding. And that's really why I wanted to get a business degree when we came here. I was pretty discouraged about hydrology because I knew the records weren't going to continue to be reliable. You just can't design on something that's changing. So, and with that, I think we have another speaker that needs to set up.